Extinction, after all, is an inevitable part of nature and no single species is safe from it, not even the human race. It is a way of nature to reboot itself and start over. Well, human extinction is not as close as it seems, till we colonize the entire universe. But someday it will happen. Why not today? What would happen if human suddenly disappears from Earth? What the world would look like? It would all start with transportation crashing down, trains, buses, and cars and thousands of airplanes. They would continue to move until they hit something. The day will be remembered as the day with the most accidents in human history. But nobody to witness it. Just a few hours after humans disappear, lights around the world will shut down. One by one, every neon light, every bulb, every street lamp will go dark as power begins to shut down, plunging the globe in darkness. In just a few days after our extinction, our underground railways and tunnels will be flooded and completely submerged because the pumps that divert water and sewage from the tunnels will stop operating and begin to fill up, until it eventually spills into our underground infrastructures. Within a week, our domesticated animals that are in count of billions, will die out of starvation without food provided by humans. If they leaves the place and started looking for food, chances are that they will be killed by a large predator. Within 10 days, without humans, security measures in nuclear power plants would finally fail, setting off a chain of explosions, and releasing toxic radiation across the globe deadlier than Tsar Bomba, the biggest ever detonated nuclear bomb. Wildlife in affected regions would die, but elsewhere, another species would prevail. Within a year of our extinction, the skies will be a sight to behold as one by one all the satellites that we have launched into space will plummet back to Earth, having no means of being powered and maintained. It would take only 15 years for roads to get covered in moss. With every decade, more vegetation would spread over the cities, turning them into picturesque ruins. Human houses would rot, and seasonal weather water ice cycles would crack the concrete and cause dams and bridges to fall down. In only 150 years, London would be completely covered by swamps as it was before the Roman times. When we are all gone, the cities we have built in desert lands such as Las Vegas and Dubai, will be devoured by sand and turn back into its state as a desert without humans. Speaking of animals, when the massive cities that we have built, and the suburbs that we once occupied, have been devoid of our presence, animal life will begin to return to these places that we have forced them out of. A good example of this scenario is Chernobyl. When the area was turned into a no-man land after the devastating meltdown of its nuclear power plant, wildlife, and even vegetation returned to the region. Wild dogs and birds have returned and began bringing back life to Chernobyl. 300 years later, metal buildings, bridges, and towers will start to break apart because of corrosion. Perhaps the only man-made monuments that will last for decades after our extinction, or even hundreds of years after, would be monuments made out of stone such as the Great Pyramids at Giza and Mount Rushmore. It would take 500 years for the forests to regain their position on the planet. But even after 500 years, there would still be visible traces of human structures like the forelegs of the Eiffel Tower or the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty. 10,000 years later, the only evidence of our existence will be the things we have made with stone like the pyramids in Giza and our trace that are held within the crust of Earth. After 25,000 years, instead of global warming, Earth would face another ice age. This time it would not bring such a dramatic impact on animal species, and most of them would adapt to the new conditions. Human traces would only be found buried in the soil,